So hello, Bernie
Hello.
Perrett.
Yes, hello, Barry Mackay. How are you?
And tell us, how long were you the headmaster here?
A long, long time.
When did you first begin?
1974.
Until?
1993.
Was that the year that AME closed down?
No, there's a few more years that went after I left.
Okay, so tell me what attracted you to AME in the first place?
Oh, I think opportunity.
Yeah?
Opportunity for kids, opportunity to work with children in a way that was open and flexible, and I also liked the idea that the school had a plan for the future.
And you said in your speech that you didn't have a lot of experience when you came to the job. You were just a country lad.
I was a country lad.
Where did you come from?
Country Victoria. I was with the Victorian Education Department, and I was past my use-by date. That was my own opinion.
Okay. So how did you find out about the job?
It was just advertised, and I'd read about the school in various places, a couple of journals, and who knows, it might have been an article written by Robin, I don't know, where I actually read it, but then there was an ad came up and I knew a little bit about the school, applied for the information, usual thing, read the stuff, applied, they said come up and have a look, because everybody had to come up and have a look.
Yeah.
So that was interesting experience.
So when you got accepted and when you first started teaching here, what was it like?
Hectic and really busy and really confusing and
so you learnt on the job
and wonderful.
Yeah.
There were just many kids who were really switched on. I mean, basically you could offer them some resources, you could give them some ideas, enthusiasm personified, and off they'd go. Other kids were really hard work, and we had a lot of kids at the school who I think were not self-starters, and they found it very difficult. And many teachers found it very difficult, that they found it very difficult. So,
what did you have to do in those cases?
You just talk to the kids and work out a plan and gradually get them to come around. And sometimes they're angry about nothing to do with me or the school or the teachers, but past experience. Sometimes they're angry with parents. Sometimes they're angry with the world. Sometimes they're angry with their lot. They just didn't like things, and they just had to work very carefully and consistently with them to make sure that they felt accepted, loved, and gradually they came around.
So what are some of the more positive experiences you remember from your time at AME?
Oh, I just think the outstandings are when you saw children engaged in activities, so that when they jumped off the bus in the morning, they'd start an activity, or a couple of days they went into it, and they'd jump off the bus and rush into school, jump into the activity. There were no bells, and they'd just start.
Yeah.
And it made your heart ring, because you knew you had them. They were engaged, they were thoughtful, they were passionate, and they had ideas, and they loved it.
So when you look back at all the people that have gone through AME and look at what they're doing now, what's the sort of impression do you get?
Well, I get the impression that there are some very together people about.
Yeah.
They are still loving, they're still thoughtful, they're intelligent, they're varied in their occupations, so varied, and yet they still hold terrific memories of the school. They still tell me they enjoyed their time, they found it fascinating and joyous, and wished they could continue on. Of course, they just got older. We had a couple of kids who said, I'd like to demote myself so I can continue on. Yeah, that was all good.
Yeah. So what are some of the projects and things that you remember some of the kids getting involved with, which were really good, which were really educational, self-starting stuff?
Oh, I mean, Barry Mackay, are you asking me that? You're a pretty good self-starter yourself, but basically, you remember your own play. You know, I'm talking the other day about your New South Wales towns. Well researched.
1974, I think I did that.
Well researched.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
Oh, about 9.
9. Okay.
I mean, there must have been other kids who were really talented.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying it was Barry Mackay's, a lone road show. We had kids in photography. We had kids that were building and constructing.
Yeah.
We had kids that were into bigger plays. The secondary kids into bigger plays. mostly supported by teachers.
Yeah.
We had some terrific camps that were designed and well managed. We had things called target camps for the senior kids, where we went off to a place and we had a target and everybody reached there, and we had many, many ways of getting there. You walked, you paddled, you rode horses, you rode bikes, you did whatever you could do to get there. And they were great fun. Very, very instructive of kids in terms of geography, map reading, all that sort of stuff. So we tried to incorporate all that sort of stuff into kids' learning. But in the secondary school, it was they were pretty straight classes too. And a lot of the time when activities came together, you wouldn't have been in the school obviously in those years, but we had teachers who turned their classrooms over into other environments. We had a castle once, we had a medieval village once, we had a Grecian village, we had a Roman fora, we had, I was cast as Henry VIII, I think. I wasn't fat enough, but there I was. In the secondary school, we had one teacher did a huge unit of work on I suppose it was warring imaginary towns in a social studies unit. People were given tasks: a minister for defence, a minister for finance.
I think we did something like that in secondary. We had something called Dangerous Parallels.
Well, there's another one. There was another one, crisis and conflict, I remember, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And that was when the kids got really engaged. But of course, some of those came from the teachers, but some came from the kids. Yeah. In the early days, we relied a lot on it coming from the kids, and sometimes you had to wait a long time.
And teaching Japanese at such an early stage, I guess, was quite a radical thing to do in the early 70s.
It was more than radical. It was unheard of.
Yeah.
We were probably one of 2 schools, 3 schools in the whole of the country that was teaching Japanese from kindergarten right through.
Yeah.
We never had enough time to teach Japanese, and we always relied on native speakers, and that was always the trouble. We could never get any. We had to prove that there was no one in Australia who could do the job before we could hire a Japanese speaker.
And Psycho was definitely a big boost.
She was a big plus for us.
Yeah.
She was an amazing lady in her own right, because she was from Japan into a foreign country, new customs altogether, and she found her own way beautifully, and in a school where I suppose pleasantries were not necessarily accepted or wanted in terms of deference to position, deference to age, and sometimes they were troublesome. But her teaching was brilliant, and we had quite a few memorable trips to Japan with kids as well.
So looking back at the school as a whole, do you think it was a successful experiment?
Well, for me it was successful. I left the school in a bit of a torrent. Yeah. There were issues there, but of the best things we did, I can honestly say I think they were the best things anyone could have done.
How was it different, though, to, say, a state school?
Well, first of all, we didn't have a set curriculum right through the school. We negotiated a lot of the curriculum. We had goals to reach at certain ages. We knew what children vaguely should be doing, in maths and reading and science and all that. But we spent a lot of time talking with kids about their interests before we set course. And of course, the more creative the teacher, the more beneficial the curriculum became for the kids. It was exciting. It wasn't just a dull, repetitious thing. I mean, I'm not a fan of curriculum. I think curriculum's an artificial thing anyway. And that we had children who were reading the unabridged version of Robinson Crusoe at 5 years of age. Now, what do you do with that child? In most schools, they'd be a damned encumbrance, because teachers are teaching kids to read at 5. He was ready to do something else, like write novels. Well, we had, when you look at 5-year-olds, there are very, very many variations in a 5-year-old group. So we had to differentiate. In most schools, yes, sometimes they differentiate a little, but we had to differentiate a lot because we thought the children were quite individual. Teaching children individually is hard. It requires a lot of patience, it requires an enormous amount of work and a hell of a lot of resources, and also small classes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add on?
I'm just fine. I've been a delirious couple of days for me, and I feel I've met many people now, like hundreds of past students, and feel they've made me affirmed and made me feel strong that yes, the school's values were good and honest, and we did as best we could, and we've done very well.
Excellent.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much, Bernie. Appreciate your time.